Hello, my name is Christiana, and I'm on the women's rowing team at Yale, and I'm going to talk about identity and self-worth in Christ and sports. The first thing I think of when asked what it means to be a total athlete is knowing that although being able to play sports is a way to glorify God, it is not where we should place our identity. And as Christians, our identity is placed in Christ as we live our lives trying to walk as He did and reflect His image. In a sport like rowing, it is so easy to get caught up in the idea that your worth on the team is based on where you sit in the boat or how you compare to your teammates on erg tests. We see our rankings on the team on a day-by-day basis, making it so easy to idolize our sport because we think it's a way to gain approval from our teammates, gain approval from coaches, parents, spectators. And personally, I've been reflecting on this past season and found myself repeatedly falling into this trap of letting my performance in sport be a way to gain approval of others, letting it define me and influence how I see myself. This mentality isn't exclusive to rowing, and can also be experienced in other sports, and is brought on by our own sense of perfectionism and self-expectations. I realize that no matter how gifted you are in your sport, basing your self-worth off of your performance only leads to disappointment. And at the end of the day, there will come a time when we endure injuries or have an off day, and eventually we won't be able to play as well as we once did. This is just proof that sports are unstable. However, God is always there for us, and when things seem like they aren't turning out well for us, God is always there to pick us up and put us back together. He is constant, and we are valued because we are children of God, and there is a Creator that loves us so much. And knowing this helps us to realize that sports are not who we are, but just something that we do. And further with that idea, our performance is just something we did, and it doesn't define who we are. When sports are the priority, we are in bondage. And this is shown in Galatians 4, verses 3 through 7. It says, "Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage, under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth His Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of His Son into your hearts, crying out, 'Abba, Father.' Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son, and if a son, an heir of God through Christ." And so, when keeping God as our number one priority, we are freed from the bondage that sports can have when our priorities are misaligned. And we know that when we go out to play our sport, we are doing it to please God and not man. It can be hard trying to change our thought patterns to find our worth in Jesus. However, spending time in the Word and reinforcing God's truth, that we are God's friends and His children, that we are His masterpiece, and that we are forgiven, helps to influence our perception of ourselves. And when we fully accept that our self-worth is found in Jesus and not the success of our sports, we set our sights on the kingdom. And the kingdom is eternity and everlasting. It's not the worldly pleasures which are fickle and temporary. And so by changing the way we put our identity, all aspects of our lives are transformed, and we are living for Jesus and not ourselves and our sport. And at the end of the day, we are so much more than athletes. We are worthy because we are children of God, and with that, we have a purpose, and that's to reflect Jesus and advance the kingdom. Thank you for listening.